the Idries Shah Foundation podcast. Practical Psychology for Today. Featuring the works of Idries Shah, voiced by David Ault. Welcome to the Idries Shah Foundation podcast. In this edition of the podcast, we will hear selections from the exploits of the Incomparable Mulla Nasrudin by Idries Shah. This audio has been made available by the Idries Shah Foundation. Hidden Depths. One day, the mullah was in the market and saw birds for sale at 500 reals each.
My bird, he thought, which is larger than any of these, is worth far more.
The next day he took his pet hen to market. Nobody would offer him more than 50 reals for it. The mullah began to shout,
"Oh, people, this is a disgrace. Yesterday you were selling birds only half this size at 10 times the price."
Somebody interrupted him. "Nasrudin, those were parrots, talking birds. They're worth more because they can talk."
"Fool," said Nasrudin. "Those birds you value only because they can talk. This one, which has wonderful thoughts and yet does not annoy people with chatter, you reject."
Back to front. Nasrudin was visited by some students who asked whether they might hear his lessons. He agreed, and they set out towards the lecture hall, walking behind the mullah, who had mounted his donkey with his face to its tail. People began to stare. They thought that the mullah must be a fool, and the students who followed him even greater fools. Who, after all, walks behind a man who rides a donkey back to front? After a little while, the students began to become uneasy, and said to the mullah, "Oh, mullah, people are looking at us. Why do you ride in this manner?" Nasrudin frowned.
"You are thinking more about what people think than what we are doing," he said. "I shall explain it to you. If you walk in front, this would show disrespect to me, because you would have your backs to me. If I walked behind, the same would be true. If I ride ahead with my back towards you, this shows disrespect for you. This is my only way of doing it."
Principles of life-saving. Nasrudin was not sure which of two women he would marry. One day they both cornered him and asked which one he loved the more.
"Put the question in a practical context and I will try to answer it," he said.
"If we both fell into the river, which one would you save?" asked the smaller and prettier one. The mullah turned to the other, a large but moneyed wench.
"Can you swim, my dear?"
Unsuited.
"Take up this sack and carry it to my house," said Nasrudin to a porter in the market.
"May I be your sacrifice, Effendi? Where is your house?" The mullah looked at him aghast.
"You are a disreputable ruffian and probably a burglar. Do you think that I could ever tell you where my house is?"
Creeping up on himself. Bedar, the watchman, caught the mullah prizing open the window of his own bedroom from the outside, in the depths of the night. "What are you doing, Nasrudin? Locked out?"
"Hush, they say I walk in my sleep. I'm trying to surprise myself and find out."
His need is greater than mine. The mullah one day brought home a cake of soap and asked his wife to wash his shirt. No sooner had she started to soap the shirt when a huge crow swooped down, snatched the soap and flew away, perching on a branch. She gave a furious cry. The mullah came running out of the house.
"What happened, my dear?"
"I was just going to wash your shirt and that enormous crow came down and stole the soap." The mullah was completely unruffled.
"Look at the colour of my shirt, and look at the garment of the crow. His need was undoubtedly greater than mine. It is as well that he was able to obtain soap, even at my expense."
Court. The king sent a private mission around the countryside to find a modest man who could be appointed a judge. Nasrudin got wind of it. When the delegation, posing as travellers, called on him, they found that he had a fishing net draped over his shoulders. "Why, pray," one of them asked, "do you wear that net?"
"Merely to remind myself of my humble origins, for I was once a fisherman."
Nasrudin was appointed judge on the strength of this noble sentiment. Visiting his court one day, one of the officials who had first seen him asked, "What happened to your net, Nasrudin?"
"Oh, there is no need of a net, surely," said the mullah judge, "once the fish has been caught."
But for the grace. Seeing a white shape in the garden in the half-light, Nasrudin asked his wife to hand him his bow and arrows. He hit the object, went out to see what it was, and came back almost in a state of collapse.
"That was a narrow shave. Just think, if I had been in that shirt of mine hanging there to dry, I would have been killed. It was shot right through the heart."
Takes after his father. Some of the mullah's toddlers were playing around the house, and someone asked his small son, "What is an aubergine?" The son and heir immediately replied, "A mauve calf which has not yet opened its eyes." Delirious with delight, the mullah gathered him up in his arms and kissed his head and feet.
"Did you hear that? Just like his father, and I never told him. He made it up by himself."
Light the candle. Nasrudin was sitting talking with a friend as dusk fell. "Light a candle," the man said, "because it is dark now. There is one just by your left side."
"How can I tell my right from my left in the dark, you fool?"
asked the mullah. Learning the hard way. If you tell a person something in so many words, it will, as like as not, slide off him and will not be absorbed. Practical methods are essential. A fakir called Nasrudin down from the roof of his house on which he was working. When the mullah got to the ground, the man said, "Give me alms."
"Why did you not call up to me?"
asked the mullah. "I was ashamed," said the man.
"Oh, don't have false pride," said Nasrudin. "Come up to the roof."
As soon as they got to the top of the house and Nasrudin had started his work again, he said to the man,
"No, I have no alms for you."
Something fell. Nasrudin's wife ran to his room when she heard a tremendous thump.
"Nothing to worry about," said the mullah. "It was only my cloak which fell to the ground."
"What, and made a noise like that?"
"Yes, I was inside it at the time."
The last day. Nasrudin's neighbours coveted his fatted lamb, and often tried to make him kill it for a feast. Plan after plan failed, until one day, when they convinced him that within 24 hours the end of the world would come.
"In that case," said the mullah, "we might as well eat it."
So they had a feast. When they had eaten, they lay down to sleep, taking off their jackets. After several hours, the guests awoke to find that Nasrudin had piled all the clothes on a bonfire and burnt the lot. They raised a howl of rage, but Nasrudin was calm.
"My brothers, tomorrow is the end of the world, remember? What need will you have of your clothes then?"
I'll take the 9. In a dream, Nasrudin saw himself being counted out coins. When there were 9 silver pieces in his hand, the invisible donor stopped giving them. Nasrudin shouted,
"Oh, I must have 10!
so loudly that he woke himself up. Finding that all the money had disappeared, he closed his eyes again and murmured,
"Oh, all right then, give them back. I'll take the 9.
He knows the answer. A Turkoman's bull broke down Nasrudin's fence and ran back to its owner. Nasrudin followed it and started to lash it. "How dare you whip my bull!" roared the wild Turkoman.
"Never mind about that, you," said Nasrudin. "He knows about it. The matter is between the 2 of us."
What a bird should look like. Nasrudin found a weary falcon sitting one day on his windowsill. He had never seen a bird of this kind before.
"You poor thing," he said.
"How ever were you allowed to get into this state?" He clipped the falcon's talons and cut its beak straight and trimmed its feathers.
"Now, you look more like a bird," said Nasrudin.
The Veil. It was the mullah's wedding day. The marriage had been arranged, and he had never seen his wife's face. After the ceremony, when she removed her veil, he realized that she was terribly ugly. While he was still stunned from this shock, she asked him, "Now, tell me, my love, your commands. In front of whom shall I remain veiled, and to whom shall I be allowed to show my face?"
"Oh, show your face to anyone you like," groaned the mullah, "as long as you don't show it to me."
Your poor old mother. Nasrudin's wife, angry with the mullah for some reason, brought his soup boiling hot, hoping that he would scald his mouth with it. As soon as it was on the table, she forgot and took a gulp herself without cooling it. Tears came to her eyes, but she still hoped that the mullah would drink some of the boiling soup.
"Why are you crying?"
he asked her. "My poor old mother, just before she died, had some soup like this. The memory made me weep." Nasrudin turned to his soup and took a burning mouthful. Tears were soon coursing down his cheeks as well. "Why, Nasrudin, surely you are not crying?"
"Yes," said the mullah. "I am crying at the thought that your poor old mother died and left you alive."
I know her best. People ran to tell the mullah that his mother-in-law had fallen into the river. "She will be swept out to sea, for the torrent is very fast here," they cried. Without a moment's hesitation, Nasrudin dived into the river and started to swim upstream. "No," they cried, "downstream. That is the only way a person can be carried away from here."
"Listen," panted the mullah. "I know my wife's mother. If everyone else is swept downstream, the place to look for her is upstream."
The Secret. A would-be disciple haunted Nasrudin, asking him question after question. The mullah answered everything, and realized that the man was not completely satisfied, although he was in fact making progress. Eventually the man said, "Master, I need more explicit guidance."
What is the matter?
I have to keep on doing things, and although I progress, I want to move faster. Please, tell me a secret, as I have heard you do with others.
I will tell you when you are ready for it.
The man later returned to the same theme.
Very well. You know that your need is to emulate me.
Yes.
Can you keep a secret?
I would never impart it to anyone.
Then observe that I can keep a secret as well as you can.
Do not disturb the camels. Nasrudin was wandering in a graveyard. He stumbled and fell into an old grave. Beginning to visualize how it would feel if he were dead, he heard a noise. It flashed into his mind that the angel of reckoning was coming for him, though it was only a camel caravan passing by. The mullah jumped up and fell over a wall, stampeding several camels. The camelteers beat him with sticks. He ran home in a distressed state. His wife asked him what the matter was and why he was late.
I have been dead,
said the mullah. Interested in spite of herself, she asked him what it was like.
Not bad at all, unless you disturb the camels. Then they beat you.
Happiness is not where you seek it. Nasrudin saw a man sitting disconsolately at the wayside and asked what ailed him. There is nothing of interest in life, brother, said the man. I have sufficient capital not to have to work, and I am on this trip only in order to seek something more interesting than the life I have at home. So far I haven't found it. Without another word, Nasrudin seized the traveller's knapsack and made off down the road with it, running like a hare. Since he knew the area, he was able to outdistance him. The road curved, and Nasrudin cut across several loops, with the result that he was soon back on the road ahead of the man whom he had robbed. He put the bag by the side of the road and waited in concealment for the other to catch up. Presently the miserable traveller appeared, following the tortuous road, more unhappy than ever because of his loss. As soon as he saw his property lying there, he ran towards it, shouting with joy.
That's one way of producing happiness, said Nasrudin.
Early to rise.
Nasrudin, my son, get up early in the mornings.
Why, father?
It is a good habit. Why, I once rose at dawn and went for a walk. I found on the road a sack of gold.
How did you know it was not lost the previous night?
That is not the point. In any case, it had not been there the night before. I noticed that.
Then it isn't lucky for everyone to get up early. The man who lost the gold must have been up earlier than you.
The majesty of the sea. Regally the waves were hurling themselves upon the rocks, each deep blue curve crested by whitest foam. Seeing this sight for the first time, Nasrudin was momentarily overwhelmed. Then he went near to the seashore, took a little water in his cupped hand, and tasted it.
Why,
said the mullah,
to think that something with such pretensions is not worth drinking.
Moment in time. What is fate? Nasrudin was asked by a scholar.
An endless succession of intertwined events, each influencing the other.
That is hardly a satisfactory answer. I believe in cause and effect.
Very well, said the mullah. Look at that.
He pointed to a procession passing in the street.
That man is being taken to be hanged.
Is that because someone gave him a silver piece and enabled him to buy the knife with which he committed the murder, or because someone saw him do it, or because nobody stopped him? Division of labour. A ship, on which the mullah was the only passenger, was caught in a typhoon. The captain and crew, having done all they could to save the ship, fell on their knees and started to pray for deliverance. The mullah stood calmly by. The captain opened his eyes, saw the mullah standing there, jumped up and cried, "Get down on your knees! You, a devout man, you should be praying with us!" Nasrudin did not move. "I am only a passenger. Everything pertaining to the safety of this ship is your concern, not mine." You can't be too careful. The mullah's wife had a friend, and she often used to give her food, which Nasrudin had brought home for supper. One day he said, "How is it that I bring home food and I never seem to see it?" "Oh, the cat steals it." Nasrudin ran to get his axe and began to lock it in a chest. "Why are you doing that?" his wife asked. "I am hiding it," said the mullah, "because if the cat can steal a pennyworth of meat, he is not likely to overlook an axe worth 10 times that amount."
This podcast is copyright 2016, the Idries Shah Foundation.